Hello, friends. Welcome to the Friday stream. I'm your hostess, Lisa. Welcome, welcome, welcome. If you're new here, the way this works is we spend the first hour or so reading an article I've picked out. I will read it to you, and you can feel free to comment, and I will stop and highlight your comments. Hey, Expired Milk, you made it on time. Thank you for that wonderful comment, by the way. I actually printed it out. I've been working on an essay about Bama Rush. And my motivation's been a little all over the place. So whatever, but I thought your comment was amazing about sisterhood. Is it really possible? Pretty skeptical myself. Hi, Nina Bean. Hi, Hannah. Hannah's interested in this topic of sexism in Hollywood. Me too. I'm looking forward to learning some things today. So yes, hopefully you can all hear me okay. My levels are okay and everything. So we'll spend the first hour or so on the article or however long it takes. Again, feel free to comment as we go. I definitely will stop and comment myself if I have anything to say about it. And hey, Chicana, how are you doing? Happy Friday. And then if you have anything else you want to talk about, I'm here. So, hey, Marie. Cool. Let's get into it. Also, happy Pride Month, everybody. I spent the first day of Pride, June 1st. I went to the gynecologist. So I had a woman, filling me up on the first day of Pride. So that's how I celebrated. All right. Hi, Irene. Hi, Julie. Expired is not in Hollywood, but she is in popular music where I imagine the climate is similar. So that'll be interesting to see if there are any similarities that you see. Feel free to shout them out. Picture piqued my interest. Love Thelma and Louise. I've never actually seen it, so I should probably put that on my my list to see. Happy Same-Sex Attraction Month. I've already heard from people that, this is LGB kind of dread it now because it's not really about them anymore, and that's kind of sad. Hello, Ava or Ava. Hi, everyone. Great to see you all. Nice crowd here. And any lurkers out there, hi. Feel free to join the conversation. You are most welcome. So let's get into this article. How Sexist is Hollywood? Check out Geena Davis's Spreadsheet. So are you all familiar with Geena Davis, the actress? I know her from Beetlejuice. She was so good in that. I love that movie. Set in Connecticut, kind of in the area where I live. And I don't know, she's really good in it. Okay, anyways. When it comes to quantifying bias in popular entertainment, the Academy Award winners in A League of Her Own. I haven't seen A League of Her Own either. I'm kind of not repping really well. I probably should have done a little homework. So this is by Chris Colin, who writes, he's sort of like the California arty writer for the New York Times. And he writes about everything sort of California. So I guess this is sort of in his realm. And this is interesting. Transforming Spaces is a series about women driving change in sometimes unexpected places. So I'm definitely going to look for more of these articles because this is the first one that I've seen. So maybe they just started this series because I haven't seen any others, and it definitely sounds like something that will be right up our alley. Hi, Willow, and happy Pride Month to you. All right. Geena Davis and her family were returning from dinner in their small Massachusetts town when her great-uncle Jack, 99, began drifting into the oncoming lane of traffic. Ms. Davis was about 8, flanked by her parents in the back seat. Politeness suffused the car, the family, maybe the era, and nobody remarked on what was happening even when another car appeared in the distance, speeding toward them. Finally, moments before impact, Ms. Davis's grandmother issued a gentle suggestion from the passenger seat. A little to the right, Jack. They missed by inches. Okay, so that's a crazy that's a crazy story. She's being driven by her uncle who's 99 years old. Wow. Ms. Davis, 67, relayed this story in her 2022 memoir, Dying of Politeness. Really interesting title for a book, Dying of Politeness, something that we've talked about here, like that women are so afraid to speak up, they would literally rather die than, speak up and potentially be labeled a Karen. They will actually they'll abandon their self-preservation, right? An encapsulation of the genially stultifying values that she had absorbed as a child, and that a great many other girls absorbed too. Defer. Go along to get along. Everything's fine. Of course, the Academy Award-winning actress ditched that pliability long ago. From Thelma and Louise and A League of Their Own to this year's coming-of-age drama, Fairyland. So she's got a movie to promote too, I guess. Backseat docility just wasn't an option. Indeed, self-possession was her thing, or one of her things. Few profiles have failed to mention her Mensa membership, her fluency in Swedish, or her Olympic caliber archery prowess. A woman of many talents. But cultivating her own audaciousness was only phase one. Cultivating her own audaciousness was only phase one. So that's really interesting. Like, she obviously has a lot of talents. She's, famous person in the public eye. And really the most important thing is her ability to speak up for herself, to get out there, and not feel afraid and not feel like she's just got to hide in the corner. So that's kind of very, really encouraging to read that, actually. Hey, Radical. Hey, Hazel. Hi. Did I say Irene? I think you've been here. Yeah. Hi, everybody. We're just getting into the article now. Next year will mark 2 decades since the creation of the Geena Davis Institute on Gender and Media. When her daughter was a toddler, Ms. Davis couldn't help noticing that male characters vastly outnumbered female characters in children's TV and movies. I knew everything is completely imbalanced in the world, she said recently, but this was the realm of make-believe. Why shouldn't it be 50-50? Okay. That's a really interesting point, right? I knew everything is completely balanced in the world, but why does TV and movies have to reflect that? It can't just be like, it's make-believe, right? It's fantasy. It wasn't just the numbers, how the women were represented, their aspirations, the way young girls were sexualized. Across children's programming, Ms. Davis saw a bewilderingly warped vision of reality being beamed into impressionable minds. Long before diversity, equity, and inclusion would enter the lexicon, she began mentioning this gender schism whenever she had an industry meeting. Everyone said, no. It used to be like that, but it's been fixed, she said. I started to wonder, what if I got the data to prove that I'm right about this? So among all her other interests and talents and everything, she's also a data nerd, as am I. I love data to back up, It's not just like, I think it's this way. Like, here is the actual data that proves that it's this way. See you, Radical. Come back later if you can. Amid Hollywood's trumpeted causes, Ms. Davis made it her mission to harvest to quietly harvest data. That's interesting. To quietly harvest data secretly. Can't be looking at the stuff out in the open, right? If only people listen to data. Exactly. It's like so much of the time we fall back on our feelings about things, and we don't actually listen to the facts that are out there, which are so important. Exactly how bad is that schism? In what other ways does it play out beyond gender? Who else is being marginalized? Fair question. In lieu of speechifying and ribbons, and with sponsors ranging from Google to Hulu, Ms. Davis's team of researchers began producing receipts. Ms. Davis wasn't the first to highlight disparities in popular entertainment, but by leveraging her reputation and resources and by blasting technology at the problem, she made a hazy truth concrete and offered offenders a discrete path toward redemption. I like how this is written. While the Institute first focused on gender data, its analyses now extend to race and ethnicity, LGBTQIA+, disability, age 50 plus, and body type. So those are all areas where representation is important. Actually, we talked in the last stream, the stream about Connie Chung, we talked about the importance of representation and how you can't be what you can't see, and how stereotypes and things like that reinforce the way that we see people, the way that we treat people. And yeah, I know, let's not get too into the weeds with the queer stuff. We all know, we know. But at the same time, real representation, right, of like lesbians, for example, is really important. And we don't see, especially, I would probably guess her thing is probably pretty woke, right? Given the climate. But if anyone was really tracking that, say from a gender critical perspective, the way that lesbians are portrayed now versus 10 years or 15 or 20 years, I'm sure that there's been quite a shift, right? But again, it's like having that data to back it up is really important, because I can sit here and say like, well, I feel like there's been a shift in the way that lesbians are portrayed in popular media, but without data to actually show and examples of like, here's this show and here's this show or whatever. Because the queer and the trans has really infiltrated things. I know I read a book, and it was a teen lesbian romance. I read for work a couple of years ago, and they never once used the word lesbian. They used gay and they used queer. And it's like things like that where it's just like there was sort of this moment of acceptance, and then it just got it went too far or something. You know what I mean? Everyone here knows what I mean. Anywho, random awful finding: overweight characters are more than twice as likely to be violent. So that's super interesting. And yeah, things like older women, especially. I wouldn't even say older men, because older men, I think, are definitely portrayed, but it's again like how they're portrayed or whatever. And body type and non-white ethnicities, like I'm sure they are underrepresented, right? How can chubbies be more violent makes no sense. I know, it really doesn't. It was like not just how, but like why? Why would violence be specifically associated with that? Doesn't really make any sense. So here's a photo: Geena Davis accepting the governor's award for her institute during the Primetime Emmy Awards last year. At her right are the actor Sarah Paulson, left. Oh, I see. And the screenwriter Shonda Rhimes. Okay, that's these two right here. And next to Miss Davis is Madeline DeNono, the Institute's president and chief executive. I think it's really interesting. It's kind of like once your eyes are open to this stuff, you can't close them again. But like seeing how these are, well, Geena Davis is running this institute that is, probably more or less critical of portrayals of women and stuff like that. And then you have this stage, and then they're all celebrating it, right? And then you have the stage full of women who are all reinforcing these stereotypes in their appearance, not shaming anybody, but, again, it's like those subtle things that you take for granted that you don't even notice, but it's like, well, the expectation for the way women are supposed to dress in a formal setting versus the way men are supposed to dress or get to dress is very, there's a definite sexism there. So I'm saying even women who are like critical of sexism, they still participate in these rituals of sexism. And no fault to them at all. We're all under that pressure. But it's sort of like, you're aware, and you do it anyways. Even when braced for it, the Institute's findings are staggering. In the 101 top grossing G-rated films from 1990 to 2005, just 28% of the speaking characters were female. So another way we can say that is 72% of the speaking characters were male. So about 75% were male, right? Like 3 out of 4 characters who speak are male. So what does that reinforce? That we're talking about G-rated films that little girls watch. That reinforces the idea that they're not supposed to speak up, that speaking up is the boys' realm, that they are these quiet little side characters. And that's sort of the era that I grew up in with children's movies and stuff. So, I definitely can kind of relate to that. I mean, I definitely grew up with Disney princesses and that kind of thing. But I don't know, you take something like Toy Story or whatever, are there even any like female characters in that? And again, it all comes back to the data. You can have like sort of one-off examples being like, yeah, that's super sexist, but this is what you need, the data. 28% of speaking characters were female. As all this data is out there, all you have to do is watch and analyze the movies and count the characters and time the amount of time they, but she's actually, has this institute where they do this stuff, which I think is really awesome. Just have to put data analysts on this stuff, they'll go wild. Women have been mostly props in movies. Yeah, very true. Even in crowd scenes, even in animated crowd scenes, male characters vastly outnumber female ones. And that's crazy, right? In the top 56 grossing films of 2018, women portrayed in positions of leadership were 4 times more likely than men to be shown naked. Okay, so 56 top grossing films of 2018, women in positions of leadership were 4 times more likely than men to be naked. The bodies of 15% of them were filmed in slow motion. That's gross. That's gross. If I watch a movie and there's like nudity or kissing or anything else, I always turn away. Like I find that stuff really cringe. I don't know if it's like an empathy thing or what, but like because I heard the other day that people who are like high empathy have like a worse case of cringing. And I cringe a lot at a lot of stuff. But I cannot, I don't like looking at naked bodies. I don't like looking at kissing and sex scenes and stuff like that. It just makes me really, really uncomfortable. Yeah, and I think that, like, that's actually kinda uncommon, I've heard. Like, most it doesn't bother most people, but yeah, I don't know. It's always bothered me from when I was, like, a little kid, like, kissing in movies and stuff like that. And I agree, rarely adds anything to a film, right? It's usually gratuitous. Yes, this is it exactly. It's sexual. I don't wanna engage sexually with every human. That's right. It's like you become a part of that sexual experience because you're watching it, and it's like, no, like, that's something I reserve, for people I have an actual connection with, right? I'm also part of the proud prude gang. Woohoo, rise up. Need more of us. Well, I mean, this all comes back to, right, the producers, the directors, etcetera, they're male, and they're appealing to a male gaze and a male audience, and I would guess that probably for men, it doesn't bother them as much. Even Nina says, "I skip over them as much as possible." Irene says, "I don't get why they can't just imply that it happened. Instead, they have to show it graphically, like, why?" Um, Minka says, "This is why I usually avoid movies directed by men. When women direct movies, they tend to have a lot less of that stuff." Totally. I mean, it's kind of hard to avoid movies directed by men because there's so few female directors, right? Where a century ago, women had been fully central to the budding film industry, they were now a quantifiable, if sexy, afterthought. Just a reminder, this article is written by a man, but, I don't know if he's gay. I looked at his website, I got gay vibes. He's an arty Californian dude. I can't speak to that, though. I'm just saying my gaydar went off, but, not to stereotype anyone. So, um but this article was written by a man, so that's also an interesting choice that they chose to have a male writer take on this topic. Um, I think it actually is a sixth sense because to be real, right, like, you can trust gay men relatively more than you could trust straight men. So it probably is it's in there, our sense of who is safe, right, to be around. When she started to collect the data, it was kind of incredible, said Hilary Hallett, a professor of American Studies at Columbia University and the author of Go West, Young Women: The Rise of Early Hollywood. Sounds like very interesting topic. This wasn't a vague feeling anymore. You couldn't claim this was just some feminist rant. It was like, look at these numbers. So again, the importance of the data, you can't get away from that. That's not a feeling. It's something that you have to address when it's put in front of you. Ms. Davis is by turns reserved and goofy off screen, a thoughtful responder, an unbridled guffawer. At one point, she enunciated the word acting so theatrically that she feared it would be hard to spell in this article. On a recent afternoon in Los Angeles, she took a break from illustrating the children's book she had written, The Girl Who Was Too Big for the Page. So definitely a theme that's running through this is she's sort of a larger than life person, right? Hey, existential. There you are. Hope you're having a great Friday, fellow New Englander. I grew up very self-conscious about being the tallest kid, not just the tallest girl in my class. She said, I had this childhood long wish to take up less space in the world. That's super interesting because I also was the tallest kid, not just the tallest girl when I was in elementary school. I got tall real quick. I am tall. I'm 5'9", but I got tall really young. So I had that experience also, but I always felt like it was kind of special thing. It wasn't like, ooh, then at the same time, I did feel like real petite women were so cute, and I was like, "I'm never gonna be that. I'm always gonna be like this big person," you know? Um, she is really what's her height? Let's see, Gina Davis height. She's 6 feet tall. Damn. I feel like I'd be 6 feet tall, like, it's really powerful, right? In time, she began to look beyond her height, 6 feet, okay, to the insidious messages reinforcing such insecurity. Hollywood creates our cultural narrative. Its biases trickle down to the rest of the world, she said in This Changes Everything, the 2018 documentary she produced about gender inequity in the film industry. I too love being taller. It's great. I can reach things that are high. Avis says, I feel like a gnome at 5'2". Hannah says, I was really young and then I was tall really okay, I was really tall young and then stopped growing all of a sudden. I've been 5'7" since age 12. Julie is 5'9", like me, and my little sister's 6'1". That is like, dude, we got a lot of 5'9" girls here. Love that. Petite girls in high school used to get picked up by boys against their will. I wonder what the climate for that is like now. Probably not acceptable. The documentary takes its name from the incessant refrain she kept hearing after the success of Thelma and Louise and later A League of Their Own. Finally, the power and profitability of female-centric movies have been proven. This changes everything. And then year after year, nothing. So supposed to change everything, right? Because I feel like every time they make movies or even like books that are centered towards women, they sell. Like those things make money. And yet then it just goes right back to the male-centered stuff, you know? Like ooh, we're having thunder here. So if I just suddenly disappear, it's because of that. I knew we were supposed to have thunderstorms today. I wasn't sure what time. It's actually like sunny out right now, but it's thundering. Anytime the forecast is for thunder, I'm always like prepared for tornadoes because it's happened now twice. So I'm like in the last couple years. So I'm sort of like prepare for tornado, prepare for the power to be out, whatever. You never know. Sometimes it's just a little thunderstorm, but anywho. Hazel says, Alecki, love a good storm. Yeah, I do too, under the right circumstances. Oh. Okay. It was here that Ms. Davis planted her stake in the ground, a contention around why certain injustices persist and how best to combat them, where movements like #MeToo and Time's Up target deliberate acts of monstrosity or normality, since we know it's literally every guy, pervasive everywhere, whatever. They want to paint it as monstrosity. It's really acts of more normality, I would call that. Yeah, it's really hot here too. It's like 91 degrees here. Anyways, let's stay on topic. Okay. Hers would be the squishier universe of unconscious bias. Did you unthinkingly cast that doctor as a male? Hire that straight white director because he shares your background? Thought you were diversifying your film only to reinforce old stereotypes. Fiery Latina, anyone? It's a dogged optimism that powers Ms. Davis's activism, a faith that Hollywood can reform voluntarily. When she goes to a meeting now, she's armed with her team's latest research and with conviction that improvement will follow. Our theory of change relies on the content creators to do Good. Said Madeline DeNono, the president and chief executive of the Institute. As Geena says, we never shame and blame. You have to pick your lane, and ours has always been we collaborate with you and want you to do better. If a car full of polite Davises can awaken to oncoming danger, perhaps filmmakers can come to see the harm they're perpetuating. And it definitely is harm, right? To portray girls and women as these sort of quiet little decorations is really harmful. It's really harmful. You can't underestimate that harm. And also to portray people of color, sorry, that's not the right term, as stereotypes, or to portray older women as evil or whatever, like any of those kinds of things. That's really harmful. It's not uplifting. Like we talked about representation in the Connie Chung stream of like how uplifting it was to see that woman in the position she was in. Basically, an Asian American woman who's in this position of authority, authoritativeness, and power, and all those things. And how rare that was, and unique, and and how positive it was. It ended up influencing like literally a whole generation of Asian American girls to believe that they could become anything, and to believe, in themselves. And just the opposite is true. If you can do so much damage by portraying women and minorities and everything in limiting ways. So let's see. Everyone isn't out there necessarily trying to screw women or screw Black people, said Franklin Leonard, a film and television producer and founder of The Blacklist, a popular platform for screenplays that have not been produced. But the choices they make definitely have that consequence, regardless of what they believe about their intent. He added, it's not something people are necessarily aware of, and there's no paper trail. It can only be revealed in aggregate, which gets to the value of Geena's work. So Hannah says, yep, it does harm. Expired Milk says, I think in entertainment, both in and out of the spotlight, stereotypes are alive and thriving, which is funny because entertainment always tries to look progressive. Yes, that's such a good point, that like, this is an industry that's supposed to be on the cutting edge of identity and all of that kind of stuff. And yet it still falls back, right? Like on stereotypes and stuff. Welcome back, Radical. Existential says the 80s were so bad with racial stereotypes. Expired says, my first gig, the production manager made it a point to hang women's underwear from the hallway ceiling that had been left behind during concerts, and that was tame. Yeah, so not only what we see on screen, but a lot of the behind the scenes work too, right? Like the production crews and stuff like that. So I know Expired Milk works in putting on concerts and that realm in music, and then in TV and movies, you have the behind the scenes. Maybe behind the scenes, only 10% of the PAs are female, or things like that. It's like, well, are you hiring a crew? Are you hiring editors that are female? Are you hiring, it's like the producer doesn't hire producers, but you know what I mean? Like, is the producer a female? Are the editors females? Like any of those kind of behind the scene jobs. That's also where it's very, not just on screen, but very, very important to have women behind the scenes too. So yeah. Let's see. Hannah says the film industry is so seedy. I love film, but I hate the culture and the history of it. It's full of exploitation, racism, and sexism, and SA, as we have come to learn in the last many years. It's actually been probably 6 years since Me Too, 6 or 7 years. So yeah, now that people are aware of it, it's got to change. Like you can't just be aware of it and be like continue on, right? You before maybe you could have used the excuse, oh, I didn't know about this or whatever, but no excuses now. Let's see. But the choices they make definitely have that consequence, regardless of what they believe about their intent. Okay, yeah, and we read that. Cool. There's Geena Davis. She looks really good. Like she doesn't look like she's had any Botox or anything like that, which I'm a big fan. Hollywood creates our cultural narrative. Its biases trickle down to the rest of the world. So she produced this documentary in 2018 about gender inequity in the film industry. That'd be something interesting to look up if you're interested in that. Unique to the Institute's efforts is its partnership with the University of Southern California's Signal Analysis and Interpretation Laboratory, which uses software and machine learning to analyze scripts and other media. One tool born of collaboration, Spellcheck for Bias, employs AI to scan scripts for stereotypes and other problematic choices. So that seems like a really good use of AI, is to have AI doing this work, right? Because it can do it like instantaneously and for free once you develop the software. So I'm personally like a big fan of AI. It's probably going to come for my job at some point, but I feel positive about it. I know there's all this stuff like AI is going to be the end of humanity. Whatever, we're all living in a simulation anyways. Okay. Janine Jones-Clark, the Executive Vice President for Inclusion for NBC Universal's Global Talent Development and Inclusion Team. So that's a job. Executive Vice President for Inclusion. Recalled a scene in a television show in which a person of color seemed to be acting in a threatening manner towards another character. Once flagged by the software, the scene was reshot. Okay, well, I mean, yeah, if it's a plot point, that's like one thing, but if it's the whole, if there's no point to it, yeah, I mean, still, progress has been mixed. In 2019 and 2020, the Institute reported that gender parity for female lead characters had been achieved in the 100 highest grossing family films and in the top Nielsen rated children's television shows. Nearly 70% of industry executives familiar with the Institute's research made changes to at least 2 projects. I used to work right near Nielsen, like literally a couple buildings down the road, and they were always hiring. And all they do is like TV ratings and stuff and data analytics and this kind of stuff, which is like really interesting if you're into that. I mean, my career before was in analytics. So I personally find this stuff fascinating. I could do analysis. I could do Google, or I could do Excel spreadsheets all day, That's how my brain is wired. But women represented just 18% of directors working on the top 250 films of 2022. That's what we were talking about. Just 18% of directors, up only 1% from 2021, according to the Center for the Study of Women in Television and Film. The percentage of major Asian and Asian American female characters fell from 10% in 2021 to under 7% in 2022. A 2021 McKinsey report showed that 92% of film executives were white, less diverse than Donald Trump's cabinet at the time, which is saying a lot, as Mr. Leonard of the Blacklist noted. So, wow. Okay. So also in this era of, we have this awareness of of issues of Asian American representation in America, there's a lot of violence towards Asian people, and in the wake of COVID, more racism towards Asian people, which is completely unfounded. And yet the representation has fallen. So that's not a good trend. 92% of film executives were white, right? So it has to come from that behind the scenes. It can't just be what's happening on screen. It has to come from that sort of like top down, right? It's not going to happen because white men see the world from a perspective of white men. They're not going to appreciate some of the things that might make films and TV more inclusive for viewers who are not white men. I think the industry is more resistant to change than anybody realizes, he added. So I'm incredibly appreciative of anyone, and especially someone with Geena's background, doing the non-glamorous stuff of trying to change it, being in the trenches with Excel spreadsheets. Ms. Davis has not quit her day job. Coming soon, a role in P-Word Island. Not a fan of that title. A thriller from Zoe Kravitz in her directorial debut. But acting shares a billing with her books, the diversity-focused Bentonville Film Festival she started in Arkansas in 2015. Even the roller coasters she rides for equity. Yes, Thelma is now Disney's gender consultant for its theme parks and resorts. Wow, that's interesting. We're definitely heading in the right direction, she said. Bill Gates called himself an impatient optimist, and that feels pretty good for what I am. Okay, so she thinks that we're heading in the right direction. Some of the statistics don't really agree with that, but yeah. So much of the 80s was so sexist. Porky's, Fast Time, Animal House. Yeah, even like Pretty in Pink. Very sexist movies. Is anyone keeping up with HBO's The Idol stuff? Sounds like an entire gross mess. I think I've heard of it, but I definitely haven't watched that. I don't watch a lot of TV. I'm always like up for TV recommendations though. I guess we can get rid of the article. It'll be back to me. Hi. Hello. Problem is gender consultant ignores women's sex-based oppression. I actually don't mind the term gender in this context because I think everyone knows what it means. It doesn't really bother me here. I think it's raining. I feel like I have windows open elsewhere in the house. I don't think I've ever seen, I've just seen parts of it. I've never seen Risky Business, and I never knew what it was truly about when I finally watched it a year ago and learned it was about teenage boys running a brothel. I was shook. You were shooketh. What the F? Oh, now it's really starting to rain, y'all. It's raining, thundering. It's very cozy. My room is so cute and cozy looking, by the way. This is actually my office. I don't sleep in here. I feel like I probably mentioned that before. But I do sit on that TV when I watch, or what is it? I do sit on that bed when I watch TV. TV's over there. Let's see. Change the lights in here. I kind of like the red though. I kind of feel like I'm in like hell, you know? I like that vibe. Change it to blue. Green. That's kind of nice. That's kind of natural looking. Go back to red. Yeah. So definitely, I think the point of that article is that if you're advocating for something, it's really important to have data to back up your arguments, right? not just I feel, I think, whatever, but to really just have the data to argue, which is something that I've always tried to do in my writing, is have the it's funny. It's like changing the vibe in your Hogwarts room. Very true. The clandestinely gathered data. Yeah, I thought that was an interesting detail. Fear of backlash. Well, it's also like quietly gathering it. It's like they're sitting there like watching the movies probably, right? And like noting the characters and how much time they speak for and things of that nature. So it's not like they have to like spy on anybody or sneak into a set or something like that. So yeah, I know my parents allowed me to watch a lot of, I definitely watched R-rated movies when I was like a kid. I mean, they took me to R-rated movies, which I think is actually a form of child abuse in a sense, right? Like I mean, taking a kid to an R-rated movie when they're like 4 or 5 years old. So you don't need to be doing that. Find a babysitter. So anything on your all's minds? I'm here to talk. Feel free to talk about whatever you want to bring up in the comments. I have just been working a lot lately. I've not been online really at all. When I go online, I watch like fitness YouTube and stuff like that. I saw this thumbnail. I don't know if I sent this to Radical. I can't remember. I feel like I sent this to a friend of mine, but I don't know if it was Radical. Let me see if I can I pop this in here? Yeah. Okay. So I want to, let's see, share this tab instead. Okay. I saw this thumbnail. Let me see if I can zoom in here. I know you can't see it yet. That's okay. Yeah, here we go. And let's do this. Okay. This is like YouTube fitness videos. And the thing that's crazy about videos like this is that none of the comments are like critical. They're all like, yeah, girl, you're killing it. Or like, I want to do this workout too. Oh, by the way, this is 1 week. This video is supposed to be her progress after 1 week. And Radical, I don't think I sent this to you. I think I sent it to my friend K-Dubs. And he said, yeah, days 1 through 6, you're learning how to use Photoshop. Right? First of all, that body on the right doesn't look like a body that exists in reality, right? Body on the left looks pretty normal. That's more or less what my body looks like a small butt, right? And proportional legs and a small waist, whatever. This body on the right, first of all, it's like, it's really not, like, I would say it's not attractive because it's not really a body that exists on human beings. And I think it's good Photoshop. And then, but the thing that's so crazy is there's like 6.3 million views, right? Yeah, BBL, you could maybe get this body and you're risking death. What's crazy is there are thousands of comments and it's not no critical thinking skills at all. It's like, it's all like, yeah, this really works. Like, I'm going to do this. You're killing it, like only way this can happen in 1 week is with scaffolding. 6.3 million views. Yeah, like, I know I've talked about this a bajillion times, but I'm like, really want to do fitness YouTube, and I've never been able to build up the confidence to actually do it. And I think, partly is because this is the content that you have to make to actually be successful at it. And there's not even a chance in hell I would ever make content like that ever, obviously. I'm not sure, like, I guess that's the thing. I'm not sure what kind of fitness content I want to make, but I'm like very passionate about fitness and I want to share that with people. But like, it's just wild. It's just wild. You know, I would like to promote people, women specifically, like moving for health. I don't want to do any of this like porny, pervy stuff that's just for guys, or that's just to give women like unrealistic expectations. There's so many, like, I even subscribe to people who are like, here's how you burn belly fat. It's like, it's not a real thing, right? That's not a real thing. Burning belly fat, that doesn't exist. That's not a thing, you know? Yes, this is it. This is what I'm saying. A ton of those views are probably young girls, hell world, right? And they're like, they think this is real. Y'all, you cannot trust anything you see these days. You cannot trust it. There's so much. Oh my gosh. I don't know if any of you heard that thing I think it's called Soundstorm. It's like Google. I think it's Google created it. It's two AIs talking to each other, and I'm a person who listens to audiobooks for a living, so I'm pretty tuned into like the way things sound. It sounds 100% human. Like there's no, you know, you can't distinguish that this is not humans. So AI is getting really scary. Photoshop is getting scary. Not that I think, it's just that photo on the right is just so insanely fake. Like the fact that but they target kids. Like, dude, kids don't know because kids it's always been this way that they've been growing up, right? Their whole lives. They lack the critical thinking skills to know, oh, they weren't alive in the before the internet times or before Photoshop. Like when I was growing up, there was no like digital Photoshop. There was like photo retouching that people did like with a paintbrush. You know what I mean? Which was still like a problem, right? But nothing close to what exists now. And so it's like, we don't teach kids critical thinking either. They accept everything at face value. But the problem with that is none of this stuff can be accepted at face value because it's all fake. We're all body shamed so much, even if you're a relatively healthy person, that women especially seem to fall for this stuff in hopes it's somehow a real answer to a problem, which is not a problem. Also, the body on the left is like, there's nothing wrong with it at all. Like, that's insane to be like, oh God, who would want to look like the body on the left? Literally my body. Fitness, social media is so sexualized. Totally. I hate when exercise is encouraged for looking sexy instead of the physical and psychological health benefits. I totally agree. How to get rid of your hip dips. I could go on about hip dips let me just catch up with the chat here. Yeah. Okay. Like the thing. So I've always been like pretty thin / lean and athletic, right? And I always thought I had saddlebags, right? And actually, until people started talking about the whole hip dips thing. And then I was like, oh, that's it. I always thought I just had like a lot of fat on my thighs. I don't. It's just the way my bones are shaped. That's the thing. Hip dips, it's just the shape of your bones. There's nothing you can do about it. It's insane. Also, so much of women's fitness on YouTube is that one specific exercise. I guess they're called like hip thrusts or something. I don't know. I've never done it. It just looks so dangerous to me. But it's when you put the barbell across your waist. You're like leaning on a bench and you put the barbell across your waist and you do like a bridge or whatever. I swear to God, that's like 95% of women's fitness on YouTube. It's just get a bigger butt. Why? Get a disproportionately big butt? The idea of working out to make your butt look different is a foreign concept to me. Thought people did it to be physically able to do more things like hurry up the subway steps without dying. Totally agree. I just want to like have energy, live a long time, etc. Gimmicky, spammy stuff, but it gets the views. Deep fakes are so real. The body on the left is goals for many women. It's insidious that a goals body is presented as a flaw. And it's a natural, normal body. That's the thing. It's like now the goals body cannot be achieved in real life. That's the thing that's scary. The goals body it's no longer achievable by any human being. Not like, oh, the goal body used to be, yeah, you have to have pretty specific genes or whatever and work really hard. Now it's like nobody had, like literally not even one human being on the planet looks like that because that was created by a computer. That was probably created by AI. I wouldn't be surprised. Well, 2 years ago, maybe. It's just Photoshop, right? Apps, etc. Yes, goals body is loving and paying tribute to your body the way it naturally came. Spend less time looking in the mirror, spend less time criticizing your flaws, celebrate, appreciate. Can you move without pain? If you can move your body in different planes and walk without pain and lift things, you're ahead of the game of like most people. And that should be good enough, right? I mean, that should be a good enough place to start at least. Appreciate that. Oh boy. In the 90s, the left would have been preferable. Anyone remember Buns of Steel? Yeah, and it was all like 6-second abs and stuff like that. The goal is to look like an anime girl. All the makeup contouring. Now it's like anime too. Body neutrality for the win. See you later. Have a great meeting. Let's see. Existential commented on. Now I can talk about her now that she's gone. Just kidding. She did write a really good comment though. Maybe I should wait till she's around. I actually was thinking about quoting her in my video essay I'm working on. I worked on it for like 2 hours on Tuesday or something. And then I was like, I have other stuff to do. I just get a little discouraged because like now I've done a few videos where I spent like 50 hours on a video and then it's like 200 views, you know, speaking of views. Oh, not existential. I just say expired milk. I am appreciative that you're here though, existential. I appreciate you. Are you going to have thunderstorms today too? Or is it just Western New England? I'm actually like, you can probably tell, I'm like sweating. I'm dying. It's like really hot in here. I'm also wearing like fleece pajama pants. Thought about changing, but anyways, I'm hearing like a lot of white noise in the background of my headphones, and I don't know if it's like rain or my computer fan or what. So apologies for that. Yes. Yes. Well, thank you. I know. I work really hard on YouTube, so I probably should, but algorithm is real. It's real tough in this realm. It don't help you at all. Expired milk's comment. Let me see if I can find it. Give me a mo. Oh, I got a blood test the other day. I was so good. I'm really afraid of needles. I got a blood test. I'm pretty healthy. I don't have a lot of complaints. I went to the gynecologist yesterday. Got that all annual schmanual. Gonna go for a mammogram. Who's the age of getting a mammogram? Ya girl. I'm trying to find this comment. Let me see if I can go to my YouTube. Not looking forward to mammogram. It's really not that bad. It's not bad at all. I had heard like really kind of horror stories. I had one last year because I was having some pain and tenderness. Now they say 40 for a mammogram annually. It used to be, I think it used to be 45. I got one last year special at 39 because I was having tenderness and stuff. And Julie, congratulations. Let's all clap for Julie in the chat. That's wonderful. Very proud of you. Good job. Good job for taking care of yourself too. Let's see. YouTube dashboard. Lil Meow. Yeah, usually before 40, they don't do it. I think they changed the recommendation to 40. Also, I have what are called very dense breasts. And that's something I had never heard of either. Just in the interest of consciousness raising and sharing things so that we can be more aware of them. And it's the case. So Existential says, I literally have no boobs. It's very common in small breasted women to have very dense breasts, in which case they don't just do a mammogram, but also an ultrasound, because it's very hard to identify cancer when you have very dense breasts because your breast tissue looks white, which is what cancer looks like on a mammogram. And normal breast tissue just looks black. It looks clear. So that's just something to be aware of when you eventually do go for your mammogram. Small breasted women tend to have dense breasts, which is less fat, more, I don't know, not a doctor. Okay, I'm still trying to find this comment. Give me a moment. So yeah, I've been working on this essay about this show that was on HBO Max, or as they call it now, Max. Or was a movie, actually. It was a documentary called Bama Rush. And I made a post about it. And I watched it twice, actually. I watched it and I watched it again with my brother. And it was really good. And I think it has 10% audience rating on Rotten Tomatoes. Like, people hated it. And I thought it was really dope. It talks about a lot of the stuff that we talk about here. Just like really, really interesting. It kind of shows how sororities are like kind of cult-like, you know, but it wasn't really like that negative about it. Okay, I got this comment here, so let me pull this up. Yeah, if you can watch it, if you have Max, I would recommend it. Definitely. Also, like, I have really bad ADHD and I normally cannot sit through anything. And I sat through this movie twice and I thought it was really good. And I did sketch out an essay. I have to put quite a bit more work into it to make it anything watchable, but yeah. Yes. Okay. So, and I talk about this in my essay, is I went into it totally cold. I had not even seen the trailer or anything. I heard about it. It's actually an article in the New York Times about it. I just sort of like basically heard the title and I was like, that sounds interesting. And then I watched it. So I didn't know anything about it. And I think that people didn't like it because they had expectations of what it was going to be versus what it actually was. And if you kind of go into it, and what it is a little weird, right? Like it's really all over the place. It's kind of schizophrenic. But if you just kind of like go into it and just like take me on this ride and tell me what you have to say, I think it's much more enjoyable than if you go into it thinking, oh, it's going to be this expose about sororities or this like intense thing. It's actually a very quiet movie, and it's about the way in which teenage girls struggle and, you know, experience trauma and all this stuff, the sort of universal daily trauma of girlhood and stuff. I think the trailer doesn't match the movie. So that's definitely for sure. Yeah. Let me pull up this comment. I wanted to incorporate this comment somehow into my video as well. So of course, expired milk is left. So she's not here to elaborate on this comment, but I still think it's good. I want to share it with y'all. Okay, that's super tiny. So let me make it a little bit bigger. Actually, maybe I'll take myself out here because I'll make it a little bit bigger for you guys. I don't know if that's like visible. Yeah, the trailers really sensationalized it more as an expose than documenting general sorority life. And in fact, it's not even about really sorority life. It's really about these 4 girls and how they are sort of all traumatized and how they're trying to find their identity and navigate the world. And I think that's why I liked it, because I like that topic. Like, again, it fits into a lot of things we talk about here, where like, you know, we talk about trauma and we talk about how girls are treated different than boys and stuff like that. Yeah. Okay. So let me read a little bit of this comment to y'all. Okay. One thing I've been thinking about a lot recently is a sentiment that can be summed up as the myth of sisterhood, and this documentary had me thinking about that some more. We live in a male world. That is to say, the dominant culture is a male one. Because of that, all relationships between women exist with a male backdrop. So my relationships with my sisters, related or unrelated, all exist with this backdrop of men being the dominant culture. Even a separatist bunker in the mountains exists in the same context. Without that context, that hypothetical separatist bunker in the mountains would not exist. Sororities, as we know them, would not exist either. And the documentary does talk about like the origin of sororities was that there was so much sexism that these early college women going to college in like 1900 or whatever, that you know, they experienced so much sexism, they had to kind of band together to survive it, you know? Yeah, exactly. Hazel says, I believe I heard that sororities were initially started to have a safe home for women who were newly allowed to attend college. Now it's totally different. And they do talk in the documentary about how now it's really what it is. It's social stratification, and what it is to group the sort of hottest girls into one place where then the most elite, prestigious boys can go and have sex with them. That's what it is. It's like pre-selecting it so the boys themselves don't have to do that work. The girls do that work. They pre-select of themselves to be like, we are the quality potential mates for these boys. That's what sororities are now. And I think it did a pretty good job of, showing that. All of these women survived to adulthood without any tried and true sense of belonging in a male world. That lack of sense of belonging is caused by feeling like they were lacking sisterhood, which I'll define as a meaningful bond between women in a world that dictates female relationships are juvenile, temporary, and below literally any type of relationship they could have with a man. It is my belief that women being saturated and consumed by male culture makes it more difficult for them to form genuine relationships with other women because the centering and espousing of male cultural values is inherently anti-sisterhood. Genuine bonds between women are the primary threat to the dominant culture. So I can't even elaborate on that because she just says it so beautifully. And it's just so perfectly stated. Like, all we know is male dominated culture. And so all of our structures that we create for ourselves as women are still informed by male culture, you know? So yes. Back to me. Now let's see. Wow, we're only an hour and 10 minutes. It feels long. I think it's so damn hot in here. Bonding between women is always discouraged. They want women at each other's throats, a la Mean Girls. They pit us against each other with jealousy and competing for them. Lol. Oi. Yeah, that idea actually, let's see. Let me pull up I'm going to go stop sharing. Pull up my notes of what I have written about so far as I'm working on this. Hopefully it will be an essay. We'll see. It's more of just like a motivation thing for me right now. I've been working a lot and I'm just like very into work right now. And like when I sit at my computer, I don't want to be sitting at my computer for that long. So it's like when I'm at my computer, I want to be working. But anyways, let's see. Yeah. So, well, this is like what I wrote. Okay. This is part of what I wrote. One theme of the film is the difference between what's on the surface and what's below. The film introduces us to 4 young women who have sorority aspirations, and these women are bright and beautiful, cheerful, and optimistic on the surface, but their cheerful facades are belying significant trauma and a desire to belong. And the performance that they put on is the performance that is universal to womanhood. And that disconnect between what's on the surface and what's truly going on is echoed in the sororities themselves. On the surface, you have a group of smiling, cheering women claiming to be supportive sisters for life. Deeper down, there are toxic qualities and really cult-like qualities, and the point of sororities is summed up by one scholar who is quoted in the film who says, "Rush is a social stratification ritual where women perform the feminine stereotype of Southern belle competitively. And what is sold as sisterhood is actually a way to rank women as potential partners for the male fraternities, and ultimately to make women sexually available to men. Certain fraternities mix with certain sororities on their social calendars throughout the school year. And so the rush process organizes girls in tiers from hottest to least hot, so the more socially elite boys know who to mix with." That's my insight about sororities. It's literally, it's like doing the boys' work for them, you know, saying like, go to this house and there's going to be 40 hot girls who all are willing to have sex with you. Is that like too, you know, I don't know. Is that too spicy? We're in the spicy red room today. So, but I'm not wrong, right? It's gross, but I'm not wrong. My necklace, my sister actually gave me this. It's sea glass. I don't know if I can, I don't know how to show you. It's sea glass. I don't normally wear jewelry, actually. I feel like jewelry is on the same continuum as makeup and feminine clothing, but my sister did give me this, so maybe that's like less bad. I don't know. When I was in college, there was one fraternity that was actually co-ed, and it centered around volunteering. The rest were just the social hierarchy stuff. Thank you, Hazel and Lil Meow. When I was in college, just a little reminisce. That definitely, like, I definitely felt nostalgic watching this movie a little bit for college. College is such a special formative time in our lives, right? Radical, you're so edgy. You're so edgy. Yeah, I really don't own any jewelry either. This is like pretty much it. Jewelry is timeless and genderless. I do feel like it's more associated with women, and it is meant to show that we're decorative objects, but whatever. Take my purity card. I used to have 2 lip rings and an eyebrow ring, so this is toned down, lol. Well, I was going to say something. Whoa. Reminds me of those glass swimming pools where the numbered women, the mob dons would pick a number, and that would be his goal for the night. Wow. Lil Meow loves her shiny trinkets. You're welcome to them. Oh, right. Okay. I went to a PWI, predominantly white institution. Is that what that is? Where Greek life was kind of a big deal. At parties, they wouldn't let guys in unless they had a certain number of girls with him. Okay, so yeah, I wanted to, Greek life doesn't exist in Canada. Oh, expired milk. We just read your comment. So maybe like if you're interested, we just read it. I didn't really have too much to reply to it because I thought that you said everything really, really well. But just so you know, while you were away, we were talking about you behind your back. No, because it's an amazing comment and chef's kiss. Let's see. No, I was going to say, when I was in college, consider liking the stream. Like it. Come on, guys. Come in. No, consider liking it. Like it. Like it now. When I was in college, I actually spent a lot of time at a co-ed fraternity, and I was invited to join, and I just didn't want to go through the process. They had an application process, and the application was really weird. It was the art frat, right? It was like the arty thing. And all I remember of the application, it was like a book that you had to like fill it in. And one of the questions on the application was destroy something you love and bring it to us. That's what I remember. And I was like, these people are really intense. But I spent a lot of time there, and I was a regular, but I was not a member. So was it technically a Greek organization? Yes, it was. That was pretty much my social life in college. And yeah, and it was really special. It was a special place for me. So I did feel a little nostalgic, but all my friends within that organization were guys. So it was not even like a sorority thing. Like I wasn't really friendly with any of the girls there. I was friendly with some of the other regular girls, but I was mainly just friends with the guys, and they put on parties. And I know expired milk, you work in the music industry. I used to put on shows when I was in college. I used to book all the bands and stuff like that, and set up the sound and blah blah blah. So anyways, yeah, it was, even though my college experience in New England, not the South, watching that documentary was very, it's a whole other world. You're like, I can't even believe this is America, right? It just doesn't even feel, it feels so foreign. So yeah. I was always on the outside looking in. There weren't Black sororities, and I only heard bad things from other Black women who attempted rushing the ones available, so parties were kind of unavailable. Yeah, that's unfortunate. And the documentary we're talking about, definitely racism is a huge theme. So it's the University of Alabama, which is what the documentary centered on, and they only integrated their sororities in 2013. So that's really crazy, right? Like, that's very recent. And yeah, 2013. And yet still, I think, they're sort of integrated in name only, right? They still have Black sororities and white sororities essentially there. It's just that I think they can't overtly discriminate, but they still get to choose who gets in and who doesn't. So there's nothing really keeping them from keeping it, all white, basically, which is toxic, obviously. The men in my family all joined the frat where they brand you with a hot iron, and there my dad was criticizing me for staying out late playing Dungeons and Dragons when I went to college. Lol. Another funny story. Wow, it's like memory unlocked. My best friend actually got branded in college. A girl, my best girlfriend in college, got branded, and she was mad because she didn't know what was happening, and she also didn't know that she would have a massive scar. She got a brand of a square on her leg, and she thought it would be like a little petite thing, and it just fully like keloided out, towards like the outline of the brand was like 3/4 of an inch all the way around or something like that. And she's like, I got that for the rest of my life. Nothing you can do about it. It's massive scar, very, especially if you're sort of like, everyone's doing it. And I don't know, that this is the reason we really can't trust young people, right? To know what's best for themselves. That's just an example. Arrests would be made in any other context. Yes. And that's another way in which it's very cult-like, right? And the documentary doesn't even really go into, she just kind of like dances around it a little bit, of how sororities are very cult-like. She doesn't talk about hazing or any of that. She doesn't really paint that in a very negative light at all that could potentially have been painted in, but there's so much hazing. And one thing I've heard is like, how the sorority sisters will adopt the incoming sisters. So they have like the big and the little or whatever. And the big can basically order the little around like their slave. And just make them do tons and tons of work for them and stuff like that. They don't touch on that in the documentary, but she does talk about how, like, sororities have rules that you can't come downstairs into the common area away from the bedrooms unless you've done your hair and makeup. They're like fully done. You can't have wet hair out of your bedroom, basically. Stuff like that, which is just, that's very cult-like to me. That's cults do stuff like that. That's exactly what it's easy to romanticize that stuff than reality hits. And I think, knowing that they are cult-like, why would you get involved in that in the first place? Like, if you didn't know, like, a lot of people who get involved in cults don't know that they're getting involved in a cult. But if you know, and that it has the predisposition to be like that, then it's like messing with like gambling or drugs or something. Like, why would you get involved with that? You know, it's like could potentially really hurt you. They should have touched on hazing a lot more. One bad event practically killed Greek life at my school by the time I left. The other thing with Greek life at the school I went to was that there was a house, Beta Theta Pi, where they put out bulletins to the students, do not go there because girls are getting R-worded there and we can't keep you safe. And also the frats at my school were private property. So the college cops or whatever, the college security couldn't go there. So if you were a girl there and you got roofied and you were, you know, needed to call for help, like the college security wasn't going to do anything. So about once a year, they would put out a bulletin, girls, do not go to that house. It is not safe there. And girls would still go. So I went to a party there early in my freshman year. Luckily, nothing happened to me, but you know, yeah, interesting. Frats at my school were really interesting because it was not a big part of the culture at all. It was like a teeny tiny part of the culture. We also had a secret society that I saw the inside of one time, called Skull and Serpent Society. It was supposed to be like Skull and Bones at Yale, kind of the same vibe. And yeah, I don't know, all that college kind of lore type stuff is just like, I find it very interesting. Oh, yes, absolutely. Shocking part of that documentary was when the one girl casually mentioned getting roofied on 3 separate occasions. And she was just like, oh, yeah. Yeah, of course I've been roofied multiple times. Like, was just like, yeah. Like, you know, you can actually die from that. And I don't victim blame, but still, you're going to places where you know it's happened or whatever. Let's say if you're going to places where you know it's happened or hanging out with around people that's happened before. I mean, that is such a serious thing, getting roofied. So wild. Eat your heart out, says my dad had to swallow a live goldfish and had a sack put over his head and then made to feel like he had been pushed down a staircase. That's horrible. I had a friend who was super cavalier about dangerous things and it drove me nuts. I think we've all known somebody like that. Just like, hey, look, you know, your prefrontal cortex isn't developed until you're 30, fully developed, late 20s to 30. So that's why they send kids off in the military and stuff, right? Because they think that's not going to happen to them. They're going to live forever. They're invincible. We have all known those people. Yeah, it's a super interesting topic. So hopefully wow, that's super creepy. That's really messed up. The age of college kids ensures that a lot of these organizations will be prone to spiraling out of hand, and they're managing themselves. It's like we trust 18-year-olds to manage themselves. Like, just think about where you were at 18, you know? Right? All right. Any other topics y'all want to talk about? But we totally don't have R-word culture. No, we don't have that. Never heard of it. What is that? Rape? What is that? Never heard of it. Lil Meow left home and moved 3,400 miles at 18. That is wild. That's wild. That's actually very impressive. I feel like when I was 18, I probably could have done it. I feel like now I definitely couldn't have done it. Like I'm very much more like I'm more scared now. It's really true. Like when I was 18, I was like I traveled solo. I used to run, you know, in the middle of the woods and hike solo and stuff like that. And you know, did you see that Kathleen Stock spoke at Oxford? You know, I really don't follow any of this kind of stuff. I did see Radical's post about that was J.K. Rowling talking about Kathleen Stock, which I thought was really good. Gave it a like. And very true. And we've all experienced some degree, those of us who've spoken up, some degree of suffering, right? But I don't know. What did she speak about? I'm kind of interested now. Lil Meow says, yeah, I did it after being, what's TTI? What does that stand for? Program for almost 3 years. So I was already independent of mind. Yeah, I think, you know, that age, like 15 to 18, you feel knowledgeable and you feel old, right? You feel grown up. You feel grown. Radical says, trying to show up everybody else. I backpacked to New Zealand alone at age 17. What was wrong with A, my parents, B, me? Yeah, I took a train across the country when I was 18, right after 9/11. Solo. That was a very enlightening experience. And I literally don't think I could do that now. Like, I think I could do it if I had to do it. I would certainly wouldn't like have any inclination to do it, you know? Gotcha. Gotcha. Well, I'm glad you survived that. Everything I know about it is very disturbing. It was about gender identity things. I think a they, them glued her hand to the floor, something in protest. Jesus. I did watch, oh God, I watched about 15 seconds of Elliot Page interview with her. You know, her voice it's not like super deep, but it's been touched, you know. And the comments, though, I can't believe the comments were up. I think it was like on ABC News or something. It was something like that. Interview with her that was like from this week. It was like a Pride Month thing, and I found it. I just watched like 15 seconds, but then I just skipped down to the comments, and of course, everyone in the comments gets it, so that's at least something, you know. And then, of course, there's a few people in the comments who are like, "Oh, you guys are all bigots," blah blah blah. It's like, just let this person be who they want to be. Well, it's not. She's not being. Well, I guess she's being who she wants to be, or she's been coerced or conditioned to believe that's who she wants to be. I don't know. At 18, I transitioned from 14 years of all-girls school to hopping in the back of a car with my R2-D2 and arriving to the scene of the boys pissing on the side of a dorm building. Yes, college is definitely like a massive wake-up call to those of us who were sort of insulated, for sure. Yeah, it's like, why were we not afraid? Why, you know, speak for myself, but probably other people here, like, why were we not afraid of those things? Maybe we just didn't know. I know that, especially, okay, so I used to run, I don't run now. I'm actually going to the doctor next week. Like, hopefully, I think about it literally 20 times a day. I want to run. I want to run. I want to run. I have not been running regularly in probably 4 years because I've had multiple injuries to my foot. My foot will just not heal. I don't know. It's like it's never healing. I don't know if I need surgery or what. That's total aside. But I used to run a lot, and I used to run in the middle of nowhere, country roads, backwoods type areas and stuff. And I never felt like, anything bad's going to happen or anyone's going to hurt me. I was actually sexually assaulted by a stranger when I was running, to the extent that this is like, it seems like, why should I feel embarrassed to tell the story, right? Someone on a motorcycle came up and, a man on a motorcycle. First of all, I was running on the opposite side of the road, right? So I was running here and the guy, the other side that they drive is there. You know what I'm saying? Okay. Anyway, so I'm running down the opposite side of the road. This guy in a motorcycle goes over into my lane. Okay, so I'm here. The guy goes over into my lane and smacked me on the butt. And I was so, oh my God. First of all, it was so hard. I thought I had been hit by a car. I was so disoriented. I didn't know what happened. But the guy just like reached his hand out and like smacked my butt. And I don't think I've ever told this story on this channel. Right? Like, this person, I was in the middle of nowhere in the forest, right? Like, no houses around, nothing, like nothing for miles, literally in a forest. And I'm just running on the side of the road, not thinking, I've never thought, oh, this is like a danger or anything. I'm just free. Like, when I'm running, I'm just like, I feel powerful. I'm free. And by the way, I used to run like a 5:20 mile. So I'm also like, can outrun, at the time, could outrun anybody who would chase after me or anything like that. So, oh yeah, at least 20 miles an hour. I would say probably, yeah, something like that, 20, 25 miles an hour. And yeah, so my first thought was, holy shit, I just got hit by a car. And like, it hurt, obviously it hurt, like physically, but it's also your butt, so it can absorb some impact. But like, then I just see this, I was so confused at like what had even happened. And I see this motorcycle like speeding away. And then I was like, holy shit, that person just smacked my butt because they thought it was like funny or something. Or like, whatever, like why would you do that? That's just so like viciously violent and predatory, right? Like, you don't do that unless you're like a psychopath, like violent person. That's not normal behavior, like a pedestrian, and you cross over into the other lane and driving against traffic and hit somebody going, yeah, like probably 25 miles an hour. So anyways, then I laid down on the side of the road and cried. And I was like, oh my God, this is my fault for running out in the middle of nowhere. And like, maybe I should just stop running. I literally like had that thought of like, I should, this is a sign that I should stop running. The number one thing I love to do in life, in the world, my number one love still is, even though I haven't run for 4 years, I love running more than anything else. I'm literally one of those people who like get high from going on a run. And I was like, I should stop running. But I didn't. And then I kept running. But anytime a car would approach me from the back, right, even though I'm always like on the other side of the road, I would look back and I would make sure this person's not going to hit me. I was just like this for a really long time. I will say, right after that happened, I went to the cops. That was like the next thing that I did. And this is like one reason I've had positive experiences with cops, and I know that that's not everybody's story, and I appreciate that. And I wish that the world was such that more people could see cops as helpers and like a resource to go to when you're in trouble or whatever, rather than an adversarial thing. And it sucks. And I hate that it's that way. I personally do see cops as helpers, but like one reason why is this experience that I had. I went to the cops and I thought they're going to like laugh at me. You know, they're going to like just be like, okay, whatever, honey, you know. And they took it so seriously. And they actually like posted a car in that area. I gave them no description to go off of. The person was like wearing a helmet. They were wearing full leather helmet, gloves, everything. I didn't get the license plate because I was so disoriented. I didn't know what happened. It happened so fast. They posted like a cop in that area for the next like 3 weeks, and they were calling me like every 2 days. Oh, we haven't found anything yet, but just wanted to check in and let you know and hope that you're doing okay and all this stuff. Like they took it really seriously, and I was so grateful for that. And it always just stayed with me. And I wish more women and people who've been through things like that and have gone to the cops. First of all, I wish more people have experiences like that where the cops take them seriously. And then, you know, because that left me with the impression like, oh, these are people who are there to help me. But yeah, anyways, that's the story of that. Yeah, it's like I want to share that because I know so many women like are totally afraid to go to the cops, and it can sure it happens. It can happen that they don't take you seriously, and it sucks. But it can also happen that they do, and absolutely, the more these things are reported, like, hey, at the very minimum, I told myself, the very minimum, I'm gonna put a police report in. So if this guy does this somewhere else, now there's a pattern or whatever. If somebody else reports the same guy doing the same thing to another woman, there is a pattern of this, right? So at least you can report it and put it in your own words. And like, you know, basically I sat down with a cop and he wrote it all out and everything. And it took, I don't know, 15 minutes or something, but I was so shaken up, and it did. I wasn't even going to tell that story. What I was going to say was the thing that really changed with running for me, and especially running alone and stuff, was the Me Too stuff. And when that was all in the news, because that happened in, I think, 2015 when I got assaulted. And then the Me Too stuff was like maybe 2 years later. And then I did not want to go in the woods by myself or anything like that. I was so afraid. And I still really don't hike alone. I used to hike alone a lot. I used to trail run and stuff like that. So anyways, Existential says, I found with cops, it really depends on the jurisdiction. Some towns, they're all nice. Others, they're all dicks. I agree. It's great you were not brushed aside. Every office has a culture. Yeah, I have some other like cop experience. I mean, I was being stalked by my ex-boyfriend, and I went to the cops, and then I was no longer being stalked by my ex-boyfriend. I went to do a police report because when you actually have to do a police report before you do a restraining order. I don't know if you all know how restraining orders work, but basically you do a report, and then if the behavior continues past that, then you can apply for a restraining order or you go to court for it. So I wasn't at that point yet because I had not I hadn't reported it. So I went and reported it. And as far as I know, they basically just reached out to him and were like, stop stalking her. And that was it. Never heard from him again. So that was like another positive experience I had with cops. And it's like, those are the experiences. Obviously, your personal experiences are going to most inform your feelings on those things. Again, for the 100th time, I absolutely respect other people's opinions on police. I know not everybody has had good experiences. So, aren't you afraid of bears? I love forests, but bears. The reality with bears is, at least black bears, like in the Northeast, Southeast, they don't want to have anything to do with you. So they're not a danger. As long as you don't sneak up on them or rush them or run at their baby or something, you're good. So I've seen bears many, many times in the forest. We have bears in our neighborhood. We have bears walking through our yard and stuff like that. I am really not afraid of bears at all. You can definitely carry pepper spray. If it's black, fight back. They're not even going to fight you, though. That's my point, is like they don't want to have anything to do with you. They're going to, if a bear sees you or smells you, usually you don't even see them because they'll be gone before you even notice them. If it's brown, lie down. If it's white, say goodnight. Yeah, it's true. New England doesn't have grizzlies, thankfully. Bears are cowards. Yeah, I'm much more afraid of encountering a man. Although, again, that's also rare that you're going to encounter a man who would actually do anything to you. But I'm more afraid of Ben than bears, which is to say I'm not afraid of bears at all. I think I was more afraid of bears before I had ever seen one in person. And as soon as I saw one in person, I was like, oh, that's a bear. So they're kind of like, they're just a little goofy. They can run really fast. I had a bear run in front of my car a couple months ago, and I was, I had to slam on my brakes. That's probably more of how you get hurt by a bear than like having it eat you or something. I encountered a deer in the woods once and we ran away from each other. Why do they all look so snuggly though? They're really cute. Yeah, it depends. They're in our neighborhood. They eat garbage and stuff. They can get kind of big, but they're so like, I don't know. They're just goofy looking. Fisher cats. That's like like an otter or something, isn't it? Oh yeah, wow. It's like a little like a mink looking thing. They're cute. American marten. All right, y'all. So we talked about Hollywood. We talked about sororities. We talked about bears. Anything else? We got 13 minutes. What's Cocaine Bear? Oops. The Revenant. Amazing soundtrack. I was almost attacked by a goose once, or a swan. No, it was a swan. A swan came at me, and it was like 4 feet tall, blood, all down its neck and body. I'm Googling Cocaine Bear because I'm intrigued. Oh, it's a film. What? An American black bear that ingested nearly 75 pounds of lost cocaine. They made that into a movie. Hey, Mariana. Good to see you. Been a while. Swans are psycho. Fact. Proving beauty is only feathers deep. Best pizza. Everybody. This is a lightning round now. Everyone, best pizza. Hit me with it. Lil Meow's favorite pizza is pesto. Come on, lurkers, come out. What's your favorite pizza? Oh, turkey. Turkeys will also F you up for sure. Lil Meow's pesto pizza, green heart for green pesto. Pesto pizza, I'm assuming with a white sauce. Like, how does that work? Or is it just like the bread with pesto on it? Or is it like a regular red sauce, mozzarella cheese pesto on top of that? Eat your heart out. Pepperoni and green pepper. Radical Hawaiian. I would say that's not basic at all. That's a very polarizing pizza order. Hazel white pizza with pepperoni and mushrooms. Y'all dig in pepperoni. Anything but deep dish. Deep dish is blasphemy. Deep dish is more like a pie or something, right? It's not really pizza. I lived in New Haven, so going to be New Haven style pizza for me, which they call a beets. They don't call it pizza. They call it a beets. It's spelled like this. New York style is super, super, super similar. In New Haven, they coal fire the pizza in a coal oven, so you get that coal taste. Let's see. Nina Bean says pepperoni, radical, also chicken Caesar. I like a chicken Caesar wrap. That's good. Existential. My favorite pizza, bacon, pineapple, and jalapenos. Second place, pepperoni. I haven't had jalapenos that often in my life. I do like spicy stuff a little bit spicy. Philly cheesesteak pizza for the win. That sounds like heavy. I like pesto bun on shrimp scampi. Pesto is the sauce with mozzarella and artichoke garlic. Got it. I like that. I would eat that. Irene, I'm not picky. I'll eat anything. Ava says Hawaiian. Lil Meow, egg on pizzas off the chain. I love eggs. Eggs on everything. I'm a big fan. Expired milk, cheese pizza dipped in ketchup. Girl. Super thin crust is the vibe, my vibe. Not crispy, but thin. You know, thin but chewy. Really good. Pacific Northwest, do you have good pizza up there? Great Garden Pizza. You know, pizza that's like a salad on the pizza? I'm not like a huge fan of that. But I also haven't had it in a really long time. I would maybe revisit that. Chicken Caesar pizza sounds awesome. I love deep dish. Grew up in Chicago suburbs. I don't think I've ever had it, but just the way that it looks like not something I would want to eat. No offense. Bye bye, adios. Happy weekend to Radical Rambling. She's out. We're going to be out in a few minutes too. I love New York style too. Cheesy, salty bacon, sweet pineapple, and spicy jalapenos is God tier. I generally don't eat pork. You know, I'll eat it if it's like somebody gives me something that is on it, but I basically try to avoid it for moral reasons, not trying to virtue signal. But the pork industry in our country is very messed up. I love eggs. I eat them more than any other protein. Me too. I'm allergic to beans, peas, legumes, soy, tofu, any of that stuff. Can't eat it. So eggs are really my go-to source of protein. And fish. Hazel had a giant omelet for lunch. Irene is questioning ketchup on pizza. And Mariana is also from Chicago. Suburbs. I like that spelling of thick. Eek. Mariana doesn't eat meat at all. Lil Meow, I would die without lentils. I know. Okay, so I used to be able to eat beans. I developed an allergy later in life, and I miss it. I used to like just eat a whole can of chickpeas. Hummus. Can't eat any of that stuff. So, yeah. Kind of a bummer. Pepperoni is also pork. Existential. Yeah, pigs are so smart. Unfortunately, they're also delicious. I agree. I mean, I do think that bacon is one of the most delicious foods in the land. No frijoles. Nope. Lil Meow is also la vegetarian. I don't eat a lot of meat. I don't like touching raw meat, so I don't really cook meat. I just eat it. Like if somebody gives me something with meat, I will eat it. That's another kind of real polarizing topic though, isn't it? Vegetarian, vegan versus like meat eaters. When meat eaters come out, I've had the vegans in my comments and I've had the meat eaters in my comments, and you really can like not try to make those people happy because they're like religious about it. But hey, you got to find what works for your body, what's good for the environment and stuff like that. Yeah, it's super interesting. It's like they're like the kind of people who would have like hate sex with each other. You know what I mean? This is a little spicy comment, but it's true. It's like vegans and carnivores, like they got to get together, really, is what it comes down to, you know? That's it. I don't care what anyone else eats, but there are some meat people as crazy as vegans. Totally. I have encountered them personally. Mariana, you're not annoying at all. I think there's a lot to vegetarianism. If I could eat beans, it would be a different story. As it is, I don't eat like a ton of animal products. Even I'm also lactose intolerant, so I don't really eat that much dairy. I'll eat like a little cheddar cheese or something that doesn't have lactose in it. But, someone on Reddit posted this thing. It was I don't know, it was like from Dairy Queen or something, or some fast food, Burger King or whatever it was. It was a milkshake made out of like Oreo ice cream or something, and it was like 2,600 calories. And it was 13 grams of fiber and like whatever. I think it was 38 grams of protein and 52 grams of saturated fat, or like something insane, right? And I'm like, how would you feel? Yes, yes, you know what I'm talking about. I love you internety people who know what I'm talking about. I'm like, how would you feel? I'd like have to go to the emergency room if I ate that. I'm not even kidding you. Like at the minimum, I would be in the bathroom for the entire rest of the day, like in agony. Who would eat that? Right? It's like you would just, yes, exactly. You know exactly what I'm talking about. One of those would kill a European. Yep, that's exactly it. Oh my God. How weird is it that physicians disagree on the best diet for humans? Lean protein, lots of leafy greens. Dietitians disagree. Yeah, I need to definitely eat more vegetables and fruit. Yeah, it was on Stupid Food, and then somebody cross-posted it somewhere else. I was reading. Anyways, funny. So, okay, final topic. Plans for the weekend in a word or two. What are you all up to? Oh, I think I'm probably streaming with my brother tomorrow. I want to. Like, we had so much fun last week. Oh my God. We streamed last Sunday, I think. We're going to probably stream tomorrow though. The Quarry. The Quarry. That game was really, really fun, but it is trigger warning, scary, horror. Yeah. So Julie is Swedish death cleaning. Love that. We love a good declutter. Literally my favorite thing in the world is decluttering, but I don't do it that often, right? Because I don't have that much stuff. I'm a minimalist. So even though I love it, my favorite thing next to running, I already said what my favorite thing is. Farmers market and Silver Falls. That sounds very atmospheric. Garage sale, working a music festival. Love that. Wow, you guys have some awesome weekends coming up. I'm attending a cousin's couple shower. Good luck. Hazel says, oh, Lisa, I started playing Red Dead Redemption online and you can pick to be a cowgirl and hunt and stuff. It's so neat. Yes, that's awesome. I have waxed poetic on Red Dead Redemption many times. I absolutely adore that game. I've never played it online, but yeah, wonderful game, of course. Extreme minimalist. We love that. And yeah, thank you all so much for joining me this afternoon. What a lovely way to spend a Friday afternoon. Thank you so much. Yeah, so I'll be streaming. I know we get like 5 people or whatever for the video game streams, but we do have fun. My sense of humor comes out when my brother's around and we're just doing something dumb like that. It's like Mystery Science Theater 3000. If anyone knows what that is, that's my sense of humor. So feel free to stop by. I can't schedule those in advance. So just, just hit the bell or whatever and you'll be notified. And yes, thank you all, because it's the chat that makes this experience worth doing. So I really appreciate it. Everything that y'all had to say. That's all I got. Have a great rest of your day and have a great weekend. And I will probably be here tomorrow. So hope to see you soon. Working on an essay. Hope to have that done soon. Have some content for y'all to watch. And yeah, take it easy. Wonderful chat. Bye. Cheers. Cheers. Stay hydrated. Take care.